There's a planter out back that had seen his better days, and I went to empty the planter because the plant was dying, and I look in the pot, and there's a toad, another toad. And I've had kind of a tough week. I may come back as a toad in reincarnation. So I said, are you related to that toad I met 3 weeks ago? And we talked a little bit. And I just thought, that little toad is so small and so ordinary, and yet is a part of God's creation. And then in the front parking lot, I went out and I saw the sunrise, and I just got chills. And I just thought of the majesty and the ordinariness, and just there's so much to God's world. And then my heart turned to the people of Afghanistan. I can't even watch those scenes, hardly. It's the men and women and kids running down the street, leaving their homes, and the Taliban taking over. And I'm thinking of the past year, how many men and women from our country have lost their lives fighting in that battle. And it just seems so complicated. And then I walk into my house and make coffee and sit on my porch, and how do I deserve that? And they don't even have a place to have their next meal. Then there's the people of Haiti. I mean, that country is poor enough. And then there's an earthquake and people losing their homes and having no place to go. I think too of Ella French and her family. I think of her sacrifice and her partner who's in the hospital. And I think of the number of police officers today who aren't getting the respect and the honor that they deserve. And I realize that the world is so big and so complicated, from little toads to sunrises to people having no place to live. And in the middle of all this is us, every day. You get up, I get up, and we just try to make it through the day. We try to get by and survive, and maybe, if we can, we try to make a difference in the life of somebody else. So the world is not simple, but I guess it's not meant to be. I remember the other day, one of you sent me something that I keep reading over and over again about the brokenness of life. And these are what the words are. It says, don't be discouraged by the brokenness of the world. All things break, but all things can be mended, but not with time. They can be mended with intention. So love intentionally. Love extravagantly, and love unconditionally. The broken world awaits for the light that shines inside each one of us. And that light is called faith. The other day, I don't know if it's one of you, here it is. One of you put this little thing of mustard seeds on my little counter outside my door. And mustard seeds are so small. And I thought about that because Jesus talked about faith being the size of a mustard seed. It's small. It often gets buried. Sometimes we don't know that it's there. But every one of us has a light inside of us. And I guess our calling is to take that light, which is God-given, and in the ordinariness of our days, try to help make that light shine onto somebody else, so some of the brokenness that's around us could be mended because we are willing to share the light inside. Somebody else. So I came in this morning and I was just thinking about a whole bunch of people, because there are people I haven't seen in almost 2 years. People that haven't been here. And occasionally I'll just sit at my desk and call one or two of them to see how they are. I talked to Karen. She used to sit right there every Sunday. Haven't seen her in a couple of years. I said, how are you? She said, well, my life has changed. My husband is very sick. And so I'm not only his wife, I'm his caregiver. And so for as long as he's alive, I'm here taking care of him. That's who I am right now. But somehow she has to use that light inside of her to heal that brokenness. And I thought of Janice and Pat, and my friend Pat, who I've been talking about lately, about he's so close to crossing over. And I called her yesterday and I said, how do you stay so strong? And she says, I have never been this weak in my life. I just don't know how I'm going to get from 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock. And I said, sometimes when you admit that you're weak, that's when you're your strongest. because God takes that weakness that can easily bury the mustard seed and turns it into a little bit of light that gives us the strength to face tomorrow. And if you were at the early service, the Stitch and Sew ladies were here because Pat Martin, whose husband is a retired cop, she battled cancer, and she's been 10 years cancer-free, and then as soon as the 10th year came, she got it back. And so they made her a t-shirt, which a lot of us wore, saying, "This time cancer picked the wrong girl." I like that kind of feistiness. Sometimes you step back, sometimes you just got to grit your teeth and say, "Okay, cancer, come get me, because you ain't going to do it this time." But that faith, that little mustard seed that lives inside you and me, yes, it can get buried, and it's been tested. But somehow that's the light that we need to shine unto others. Speaking of ordinary and majesty, Mary Kay has a developmentally disabled brother who's 80 years old. He used to come to church, loved to come to church. Now he can't walk, he can't see, he's very fragile. And every Saturday she goes to his assisted living place and picks him up and shoves him into the car and drives him around. And I guess Saturday morning he said, "Mary Kay, let's go see how Don and the church are doing." So she drives out of the parking lot, calls me on the phone and said, "Where are you, Mary Kay? I'm out here, come." So I go out to her car, and Michael can't move, and I just kind of hold his hand and talk to him. And he said, "How are you? How is the church? I miss the church." And I'm just thinking, he can't see, but somehow with his heart, with his spirit, and with his soul, he's able to see. And the church is still important to him. He can't come to church, he can't do it, but that spirit that you exude is still a part of his life. And then I got a call from Ruth and Heartland, and they were just here a couple weeks ago, and they have a little 19-month-old named Malia. And Malia is very fragile, and she's about ready to leave this earth, and her grandmother comes once a week to visit her. And her grandmother said, I so much want my granddaughter to be baptized. And we're going to go out to Heartland for a couple of days this week. And so she calls me and she says, "Is there any chance that you can bring your little baptismal kit with you and baptize Malia?" And I said, "We don't need any baptismal kit. We just need ordinary Texas water and a dish, and we will baptize her." And I was thinking, Mike and Ruth are so far away. They hardly ever get here. And yet you and your spirit and the church and what we stand for is so much a part of their journey, because the church is not just these walls. It's the spirit that you take with you when you go out the front door. I guess the mustard seed, like you and me in the church, we're pretty small in the cosmic stream of things. But when I think of the sunrise and a little toad and our cops and first responders, when I think of Michael and little Malia, I realize that in the ordinariness of our brokenness, a light shines. And that light is born of God. Our calling is to take that light and make a difference unto others. Live and love extravagantly. Amen. If you're able to, please rise for the creed.